Alright, it's Sack here. This is my first real video. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the job market. So I applied to over 1,000 jobs. So that sounds like a lot, but honestly, nowadays it's not that many. So looking at when I started applying, I applied a little bit over a year ago. So I've been looking at jobs for over a year, and currently my count is at 1,005. I'm not sure how accurate that is since some jobs they get removed over time, and this is on LinkedIn. So yeah, I know LinkedIn kind of gets a bad rep for not helping people get jobs, but I did actually get a job from LinkedIn. That was in February. So yeah, but even that, like I don't know what application number I was at when I got that job in February. Despite that, I'm still looking for work since I graduated last year in June 2025. Yeah, I'm still pretty young, so I finished college in 4 years, and then this is what was waiting for me. Um, yeah, honestly, I do actually have some work experience. I started working in high school, so I had like some retail experience at like clothing stores, and then I also did a little bit of tutoring, and I also helped out at like office buildings with human resources. And honestly, a lot of my experience is tutoring related, so I guess people wouldn't be that surprised when I say that the job that I got in February was tutoring. It paid really well, honestly. Like, I think before the most I was ever paid was like 19 bucks in college when I was well, a little bit less than 19. I don't even think I made 19 bucks, but I made like 19 bucks before taxes, and that was in college when I was working at the market. And yeah, I mean, that was fun, but I mean, when I was in college, I realized like, oh shit, like the tuition is like really expensive. Like what the fuck are you doing? And like, honestly, that was like when I was like going into my like junior year, third year. So yeah, I was like, yeah, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm gonna move off campus. Um, at this job, you can only really work like up to 20 hours a week because like this market job, it was for basically like for students, and I honestly I really liked it because it helps a lot of people get that job experience. So I did work there for a little bit over a year, but yeah, I think I started working there when I was a freshman. Yeah, I think I was still a freshman. I just really wanted to get something to like do, to work. And then yeah, even in college when I was like trying to get jobs, I was really only getting like hospitality type of jobs, and I also like applied to a lot of jobs, and also like I'm not really like that financially well off. I mean, that's why I'm looking for work, but I mean, yeah, I'm like way too young to be like well financially off. I mean, even if I like had like a little bit of money saved up or something like that, like, you know, I don't really have a house, I don't really have a car, stuff like that. I mean, I have a lot of junk with like books. Okay, with the books though, the trick with books is don't buy them full price new because it's like a waste of money. Just go on eBay, and then okay, I don't want to plug eBay because honestly I don't really like eBay that much for my personal reasons. I think eBay's like customer support is like really bad. But anyway, yeah, like getting used books from eBay is like really good. Because they're just pretty cheap. Because a lot of times it's like charity shops selling them, so it's like Goodwill or something like that. I'm not trying to plug Goodwill either, because apparently like the situation with like the secondhand stores is like they're not that good anymore. They're really expensive. I mean, yeah, for like personal reasons, I don't really like buy clothes. But yeah, going back to like not really owning shit. Yeah, like most of the things I own are, I don't know, it's like entertainment rated or like kind of like junky. So I have a lot of like clothes. I have a lot of like computer parts and like PlayStation and stuff. And Yeah, I'm not trying to plug Sony, honestly. I'm letting my PS Plus expire, so like you guys know that I'm not really like trying to plug them like that, because honestly, like, I mean, you guys see the games like Sony makes, like those are pretty poor. I'm excited about like Wolverine, but I mean, in terms of like what gaming is right now, it's not that good. But yeah, I mean, going back to like the job applications and stuff, yeah, like I did have some experience like built up in college, and I did try to like specialize within my field. My college degree is, how do you point at it? It's right there. Yeah, I have it in math and econ. Bachelor of Science, by the way. Yeah, so speaking about that, like my job experience, yeah, for like Bachelor of Science, I'm like, dude, I have a STEM major and like I can't really get a job. Like, I did get that tutoring job that I mentioned earlier in February. That lasted up until like May, so it was with like a local school district, and honestly, that was like one of the easiest jobs I ever got. Like, I like applied to it, they accepted me, and I had to go through like orientation, and they were kind of like they were very strict about like the requirements for like there was like a timeline that they wanted you to respond in, which is like it's a little bit exploitative when you're like asking people to like do stuff very quickly. I mean, I kind of understand that they don't want to like drag on the process for a long time, but I mean, yeah, I did that, and then also it took me a while to get work with them because when I applied, I kind of knew like these tutoring positions are not that great. Like it's not you can't really make a career out of tutoring. Unfortunately, it just pays like shit, and the hours are also shit. And I should probably curse less so I don't get demonetized in the future. But I mean, I don't think I'm monetized yet, but I'm trying to work on that. So yeah, content creation, I'm definitely trying to get monetized. But yeah, I mean, essentially, like all these avenues are just like really, really bad. You know? Yeah, I mean, can't really do much. But yeah, I mean, I'm still trying. Yeah, so like over 1,000 jobs, and what can I say about that? Like, for like the economics part, honestly, that degree right now is like really bad. The job prospects are terrible. You can only really work in government, and then and it also depends on the person if they actually want to. Um, Also, I personally talked to a few people that do work within the government, and it takes a while. And even then, honestly, it does sound like it's a really stressful. And okay, I get Gen Z's like, oh, you always hear like, oh, you guys don't want to work, but I mean, eh. I feel like when you submit like over 1,000 applications and like the only type of work you got was like contract work, where like you actively have to like fight to like get some sort of work. So it's like, okay, you got employed, but the only reason you got employed is because you basically have like zero minimal contract hours. So if you don't really have like a contract to do or some sort of assignment, then like there's nothing you can really do and you're not getting paid. And honestly, like the pay, like they had to like make the pay good in a way, like the hourly rate for like you to justify it. Because I mean, they would call me in for like 3.5 hours or something. So I mean, you could think like I live in the West Coast, so I wasn't making like $10 an hour, but let's just say I was like making more than $30, because that is true and that's fair. But I'm not gonna like clarify how much. But I mean, okay, don't think like too high either, because I wasn't making like $100, but I was making a good amount of money. But yeah, like the hours are really poor, and like I said, like it's on contract. So yeah, essentially that's like the only job that I got since I graduated with a STEM degree. I was like, oh, well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of nice because I was able to get paid, and I was able to make like a little bit of money. And like technically, I didn't quit that job, so like I'm still with them. But I mean, one thing I could say about that is I'm not someone that's been like unemployed all year, but I mean, it doesn't really feel like that. So I mean, I even said this originally to like people that I talk to is like, oh, like it's not that I'm being like pessimistic, but like they would really like see that position go anywhere, just because I mean, I already did tutoring several times. So like private tutoring is fun, but I mean, you have to like keep getting clients, and even like that one experience that I kind of had where I did do private tutoring. I mean, it depends on the kid. Like the kid, the student I was tutoring was like really. I don't want to say it was like really easy to work with, but honestly, like he was a good student. You know, like a little bit like demotivated, but I mean, you know, like that's why they need tutoring. It's because like maybe like a little bit of motivational help that they need. So, I mean, things like that is nice, but I mean, when it goes over to like people with special needs or just like trying to like figure out what the student needs, because that's like one problem I had is I would have to like tutor this kid, but like they wouldn't necessarily tell me what they need tutoring on, and I wouldn't really know what like subject they're working on. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of hard to like help someone when they're not really giving you the material, and like they're not telling you what to do either. So that's like one thing about private is that can happen, because I mean, if you're like talking to someone that's like under 18, like, you know, they're still a kid. So especially if it's like closer to the younger side, like, you know, like maybe they're not really understanding the circumstances that they're in, and the reality of the situation of, you know, I'm trying to do my job, you guys did hire me to do this thing, and you know, I can only help you as much as you help me with that. But yeah, going back to the topic of like tutoring, yeah, that was like one private experience. It wasn't bad, but I mean, like once again, like the pay is usually not that great for tutoring like that. I was making, I think, like $20 maybe, and I think that was only for like an hour or two a week, and then that only lasted like a few months. So it wasn't like good money, but I mean, I was when I did that, I was still in high school, so it was just like getting experience. That was cool, and then I got another like tutoring job like that in high school. That was for like an actual storefront. I'm not gonna name it because I don't really have anything like really positive to say about them. But yeah, over there too, like they were just like really, really mean and like not helpful, like in the way that I was like scheduled like 2 days a week, maybe at like 8 hours or something. Because it's like the location. Like another thing about tutoring is like if you're working with kids, right? Like they're in school, so you either go in their school or you have to go after school, and like that limits your hours a lot. So yeah, like one thing about that is like maybe I worked like 2 days, 8 hours. I mean, in a high school, that was just like pocket money. Like, you know, it's just nice to get experience and be able to do something. Well, we'll get back to like modern day themes as well regarding that, because this is all kind of in the past. It's a lot different now, but we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, you just have like the tutoring. But yeah, I mean that they cut my days down to like 1 day, and then I told them I had like something else going on in that day. And I was like, "Oh, can I go like any other day?" And then they were like, "No." I was like, "Well, I have another responsibility. I just can't show up to work then." So like I stopped working there, and then they just called me back randomly one day. It's like, "Oh, like are you open to like coming in to like help us out with like a substitution thing?" And I was like, "Well, no," because I was doing something else. And then, funnily enough, I did try to work for them again, and I did interview there, but it changed a lot. Like they're a lot more computer, and yeah, it's just a lot more computer and like digital, like data management. Because before, like when I tutored with that um, company, like they mostly did that stuff on paper. I mean, my job was just to help the kids, you know, fill out the packet, and then, you know, just get the packets done, and then help them learn and make sure they're having fun, and then they're having a good time, but they're also learning. So that was like the main thing I did at first. But like when I reapplied in 2025, right? So that was like a lot more computer, and like you have to like manually data manage and all this. And like the job still pays like $18 or $19 an hour. So it's like, dude, like it's crazy. They expect you to do the most, but they're not paying a lot. I'm in like a high cost living area, so I mean, if you're like in South Bend, Indiana, right, like maybe like $20 an hour, like you would kill for that. But I mean, in this cost of living area where I'm at, I mean, I think if you get like a Big Mac meal, it's gonna be like, honestly, I don't get a Big Mac meal, so I can't really say exactly what it's gonna be. But I think I got like an $8 deal, I think. So I assume that like an actual Big Mac meal would be like $12. So I mean, thinking about like that, like, oh, like buying lunch is like $14 here. Like if you make like 18, $19 an hour after taxes, like already like barely $15. I mean, yeah, but going back to that, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like not fun and depressing to think about. Like, oh shit, like I'm not getting paid. I'm in college, or like, oh, I'm like college educated. I'm Bachelor of Science. I have a math, econ degree. Like, it is discouraging, but even then, like, I'm open to working. Still applying to places. Like, I'll apply to open 1,000 jobs. If you're like interested in what type of jobs I applied to, I apply to like cashier, grocery bagger, part-time banker, associate banker, sales associate, um, like relationship banker, crew member at Chipotle. They turned me down twice. I still have an interview there. Yeah, like you can see, like I'm legit like trying to do anything I can get. I'm still trying to like focus on something with like financial economics. So, um, one thing about that is it's helpful to have like cash handling experience, and for like banking too, you need cash handling experience. Yeah, this is also another issue with like the job market is like if you want to like do any sort of thing in life, you need to have connections where like they help you refer to the role, or they help you somehow skip some sort of I don't want to say cheat the system by like skipping, but if you have connections, maybe they can send you some posting when they put it up, like the day of, and maybe they tell you some pointers that would help you be selected. So, from one perspective like that, connections are helpful. And as someone who like went to college and like been around college, at my university, like frats weren't too big, but there's a lot of these. I think they call them like honor societies, which is, I think it's a bunch of bullshit. A lot of those organizations or fraternities and sororities have been around for over hundreds and hundreds of years. So, some fraternities are older than the United States. So, go figure, man. Some of these fraternities are really old. So, that's also another way that you can connect to people. Personally, I wasn't like that interested in it. I just don't really like exclusive groups like that, and I do think that it really just sounds a lot better, and it's a lot about like show, and I feel like they do kind of like run them like a company too. Like a lot of things like people underlook is like a lot of these fraternities, they have like real estate portfolios. So like when you live with them and you pay them your fees, like you kind of just feeding the organization your money and like your interest and your energy. So that's one thing. I know a lot of people are open to that, but I think there's like power struggles in the fraternity and sorority system where there's definitely people in the leadership and like legacy people that have a lot more power, and they're treated a lot differently than other people. And I think that just really hurts like the general fraternity or sorority guy or girl that they just want to like join the fun, and they just want to like connect with these people, but like they don't really like understand like, oh, like some of these people are like super well connected, and while that may be helpful in like getting me like a job somewhere, like, oh, maybe I can work at it's Jalasco, right? I've never been to Jalasco, but I know that's like I think it's like a Midwest store. I think it's Kroger or something. Yeah, so there's Jalasco, right? So maybe your connection helps you get a job at being HR at Jalasco, right? So yeah, like your connection does help out, but in a lot of cases, I feel like these people, they just pay the fees, and there's no like reciprocity where that person really pays them back. And the way I really notice is like a lot of these fraternities, they have like a lot of how do I say this? They have a lot of members that are like doing extremely well. Like Michael Jordan, he's like a part of fraternity, like a black fraternity. I think there's a lot of like black celebrities within black fraternities. I forgot what the name of it is. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but in terms of like the conversation right now, the name of the sorority or fraternity doesn't add to the conversation. But anyway, you have these people. Actually, it's probably better that I don't say the name if I don't really have anything positive to say about it. But yeah, you have these people that they do extremely well in life, and they're part of this brotherhood, but you don't really see them like share their success, or maybe like have some sort of like initiative where they try to like give back or just help out like the newer generation of like people who would be joining the brotherhood. And another thing is it kind of like depends on like your tight knit structure. So you can kind of think of like fraternities, not only are there companies, you could also think of them as like stocks. So I mean, you can invest in like the fraternity that you want. One thing is it's kind of like hard to switch out. I don't think it's impossible, but I mean, I think they're probably gonna out you as a phony if you try to switch fraternities more than twice. Because it's like, okay, maybe the first time it's like you don't know what they were doing, but like the second time you try to switch out of a fraternity, it's like, okay, you're supposed to like be with these people for presumably the rest of your life. Because I mean, these people take it very seriously. Um, and then like you're switching up on them. So I mean, that's it's just the thing of like, okay, you can have connections, but I mean, connections only go so far. And then the other thing is, like with these over 1,000 applications, like I know people that have jobs, and I know people in my family that have jobs and things like that, like family friends and things like that. And I mean, I'm still looking for work, you know, like even though they had the connections that got them jobs, and I'm connected to them, like by extension, I should be able to get something like that. But I mean, that's just not how the world works, man. Um, but yeah, a lot of stuff with like job applications. It's a lot of AI. Yeah, I mean that's why I think it's like over 1,000. That's like something like modern, unfortunately. So yeah, there's like a lot of this I think they call it automated tracking software (ATS). So these automated tracking softwares, I don't know how they work, but essentially they don't work too well because they just try to like convert whatever information you feed them into raw data. And the biggest issue with that is like how are you gonna know like how are you gonna know the perimeter, like the perimeter values. I'm sorry if like I had audio bleed in earlier, but yeah, like how are you gonna know the perimeter values of like what's important or like the type of phrases they're looking for. So yeah, I mean, because of that, it kind of like relies on having to like change your resume a lot, which I did. I also changed it recently, like I changed it today or yesterday. But honestly, all I did is like originally I had education, and then I had projects, and then I had work experience, and then I had another page I had skills because it just didn't fit with like all the work experience that I had. Um, but yeah, I mean now I changed it to like, oh, it just says like education, work, and then projects. Because I realized like I think the projects were like sometimes eating into like the work experience. And that's also one thing I hate is like a lot of these places they want work experience. They want like I mean a lot of these places like part-time teller I got denied to that. It says you need like 6 months of experience or education. I'm like, well, I have a math major. You would hope that, you know, you'd hope that I can do math. And in terms of talking to people, I mean, I can do that too because, you know, I took a public communications class. Like one thing I really cared about is like having like my LinkedIn up to date. Like it looks perfect. But like the thing with that is like with all this AI, like no one actually looks at your LinkedIn. Like it's so bad. Like there are people that are much more senior than me, and then they're in major roles that they're being paid a lot of money for. Okay, I'm gonna say it's not in my age group though, so it's someone that's a lot older than me, maybe even a boomer, some might say. But yeah, you have this boomer person where they might make six figures, but then you go on their LinkedIn and then it barely has any detail. And then on the other hand, I'm as like this young person that's supposed to be like tech savvy and care a lot about like technology and things like that. I add a lot of stuff to my LinkedIn, so you know it's a little bit confusing. Where like younger people, it feels like we just have to like put in a lot of effort and then not really get anything out of it. I mean, yeah, people just say like we whine about that, but I do think that we have a point of like how many applications we put in and then like the results we get. Because I mean, I understand like there were times where like getting jobs were like really hard. I think like in, like the 1970s in the U.S. or something, like with inflation, like like employment was like really unemployment was really high. But you gotta understand like in those times like people generally also like made more money in terms of like minimum wage and like the cost of living. And then even though it might have been really like different with interest rates, I do understand like if you have like super high interest rates and unemployment, like it really creates a miserable situation. So I don't want to like underrepresent like how bad like the situation was during those times. But I feel like there was a little bit more hope Because I mean, if you think about it like that, if you go back to like 1970, like the United States in terms of like the landmass was exactly the same, but you had like a lot less people, so it means there's like way less competition and things like that. And also during the 1970s, like even though we had like cell phones, honestly, like even though we had like cell phones and aircraft, I think during that time it wasn't like as global as it is now, where like we have internet, and social media. It's like you can just talk to anyone anywhere. And I mean, internet too. Like the internet, honestly, like that was a big thing where you can communicate anywhere, and then you could even like remote workers. Oh my gosh, that I don't think that helped like the job application situation too, because I mean, even with my 1,000 applications, it might seem backward, but I actually didn't really use AI for that, so I had to manually do that, and then it takes up a lot of time. And since I don't really have like a full-time job or like career like that, so like all that time kind of became just wasted, because I mean I'm turning in all those applications, I'm not really getting anything out of it. And then the one time that I did get something out of it, it happened very quickly, so it's apparent to me that if like employers are actually like interested and they actually want to hire people, then they can do it very quickly. But so far it's been that I'm not able to get any sort of experience anywhere, even if I'm very open to like what I'm willing to do. So I mean, working in retail, I mean, trying to do like warehouse work, I mean, even apply to stuff like that. Um, there's also like a lot of local like defense industries near me, so like a lot of military stuff. In terms of like aerospace and like trying to do stuff like that, I apply to that, but I mean, even those, they're not like super open to hiring. And then going back to like the AI part, it's like everyone is like trying to lay people off. You have like the agentic AI, which I mean, I understand like the concept, but like as someone that's like not like super into AI, because I'm not like I wouldn't want to say I like grew up in that environment where like everyone was like really pushing me to use technology. So like I did have a computer growing up and like things like that, but I mean, in terms of like getting a smartphone, especially like an Apple smartphone and things like that, or like playing video games on the computer and then like doing stuff like coding. I was introduced to that like later in life, probably like in school. So yeah, like gaming PCs and building things like that. That's one thing I do enjoy, but I mean, yeah, I mean it's like really different now. Um, yeah, sorry, I have to drink water, but yeah, I mean with all this AI stuff, like you have agentic AI, and I mean what I'm thinking is, well, like what my understanding is, I just explained, is like you essentially like have this like virtual machine, and then like you just try to like replicate like the approaches where you're essentially using like parallel systems to create redundancy to make sure that the results you get make sense. Now the issue with this is when you create redundancy, you're paying a shitload of money for something that you don't necessarily have to do. So if you have 5 agents instead of 1 agent because you don't trust 1 agent to do a job as well as 5 agents would, that would have to agree on one solution, that means you have to pay 5 times as much. So that's one thing. It's like, okay, I understand, like if you have a mega warehouse full of supercomputers, you can make the math work, but I mean, what's the plan, man? Like, as someone who is applying for 1,000 jobs, I feel like it's not something you want to hear as someone who makes public policy, because I could tell you right now where I am located, because I have a wonderful whiteboard with taxes on it. The total marginal tax rate on payroll, the moment you make a penny past your deductible. So in America, we do get this thing called a deductible. So that just means that up to a certain dollar amount, you don't have to pay taxes. So it's like the first 16,000 if you're single. So whatever, I guess it's like it doesn't really help the math, honestly, but just have an understanding, like even though it says from like your first dollar, it's really your first dollar after all tax deductibles have been taken into account. And yeah, your first dollar you make after deductibles is taxed at 19.95% where I live. And where I live, we also have progressive taxes. So while I do have a state income tax in this Western state, right, we do have progressive taxes. And I think the first Yeah, the first bracket is only 1%, right? But the thing is, like, the other payroll taxes we have are 8.95%. So that just goes to like social security and Medicare and things like that. So you already really have like a 9% dividend on your pay. So I mean, you kind of see what's happening. Like it's pretty bad, you know. Like someone has to put in 1,000 applications, and then if I was working, they would make 9% of what I make, and that's not even counting like state or income tax, right? I mean, state or federal income tax. Like that's just like the taxes that are bound to payroll that are kind of like limited to payroll, like healthcare taxes, disability, and like social security. Like those are the essentially that is that 8.95% that eats that up. So I mean, yeah, that's another thing is like when you think back to like society back then, you know, like in 1970, is like you still have the United States, probably had more resources in the country, maybe not like finished resources, but in terms of like wilderness and like things like that, you had more resources. I understand like there was like an ozone crisis where like we just wanted to like rip a hole in the ozone and people were getting like skin cancer and stuff like that. But in spite of that, if we knew better at the time, working with those like situations, I feel like we still would have been better off compared to like using the knowledge that we have today, working with the circumstances that we have today, because you know we did a lot of damage to the environment over that time. And yeah, imagine if we were like already doing like fracking and things like that, which honestly I'm pretty sure we were doing it like on a research basis, but we didn't really figure out fracking. But I mean, suppose we started fracking like 50 years early, like I feel like a lot of our wildlife and environment would be it would be in poor shape. And also going back to like 1970s, the taxes back then were a lot different. So I saw this with federal employment. So with federal employment, you go to this place called USA Jobs, which I've checked out a few times. I got to check it out again. Yeah, you go to this place called USA Jobs, and if you research into what you're getting into, you would have to pay those taxes, which is 19.95%, right? So that is just for mandatory taxes. That's like you can't really avoid it. I mean, you could not have it withdrawn, but you're still subject to paying your state tax, federal tax, Social Security, Medicare, and then other disability, which adds up to like that almost 20%, but it's really 19.95%. Yeah, so that, and honestly, I think okay, so let's just use a specific example. So for me, I am supposed to be General Schedule 7 since I have a bachelor's degree and I have above a 2.95 GPA. They actually did lower that GPA it's called Superior Academic Achievement or something. Yeah, but you just have to have a certain amount of grades. I mean, above a 3.0 is honestly not that hard considering like how, I feel like a lot of colleges are easy. Yeah, that was my thing. Like I went to a state college, but it wasn't like like you have like University of and then like Michigan State and things like that. So it was University of, so that's supposed to be like the more premier, prestigious option. Say that with a grain of salt. I think it is true, but honestly, I think that form of thinking where you think that, oh, like the University of is so much better than like Michigan State, right? It kind of gets you in that thinking where you really expect something in return. So I mean that was kind of my case, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the University of best school ever, right? So I went to University of best school ever, and then I graduated, and it's like, oh, you know, like a lot of other people graduated too. There's a lot of other University ofs in the country, and then essentially going back to where I'm at, like the job market wasn't really like meant to accommodate for that. So, I mean, over here we have like a lot of honestly, like the jobs over here are just really poor. Like I even had someone who, like a boomer, right? Like they were talking about like, oh, in terms of like job market competitiveness, they said like the coastal western area that I'm in is not very good in terms of competition because you have to know someone to get in anywhere. And yeah, I mean that's kind of why like I didn't have that foundation where I could be there's no better way of saying it, but essentially like groomed into a role. I didn't have that, and I did try. So I did have an economics internship, and I did that for 6 months. But even that, it was a little frustrating because they're pushing these young kids or students or young adults or just people who want to major in what I did. They're pushing a lot of people towards coding and statistics. And then one thing about that is honestly, I don't really see the use in that. A lot of that data gathering they do. The only reason these people had a job is because they were hired by the government, and the government made them do the work. And the issue with that is it makes you kind of unemployable. So you're like, oh well, doesn't that apply to you? Yeah, it does. But I did math and econ. It was a joint major because I recognized early on is if I get a math bachelor of arts in economics, where half of my classes are electives and I don't have to take any math classes above calculus, I'm not gonna have any. I'm not gonna curse. I'm not gonna have any sort of skills that I can apply to work. And even with taking math and econ, it didn't really eliminate that. So that's one thing I like. One thing about the university system is it does help you think, and it's like very nice to have these classes, but I do think that they should have some sort of I don't know, something really happened because these type of degrees, like I don't want to say like it came with a job, but I mean it kind of did feel like that. Like, oh, like you would get a STEM degree, you would have a Bachelor of Science, or honestly even a Bachelor of Arts. Like I don't know why Bachelor of Arts gets so much smack, but I mean I guess because you don't have to do math, but they're still useful skills in their own way. Like, oh, Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration, like okay, it's not math heavy, but I mean you need people to manage people. So I mean if I see someone apply with like a Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration, like that person could be really good at human resources or things like that. So I mean clearly there's these skills that you can transfer easily, but I mean for some reason the employers just don't care, and there's this vendetta against hiring people who have a college degree because employers rather hire someone that has no other options than that someone that doesn't really want to grow, or someone that's going to get stuck pretty early on. Yeah, I mean I do think that employers do think that if someone has a bachelor's degree they're going to move. I mean, I feel like this is just a bad way of thinking because if you're like applying to jobs and there's this person that's more qualified or just appears to be overqualified, I mean, if you're gonna pay them the exact same wage, just take the more qualified person. I mean, you're just gonna get better service quality. I mean, maybe they're gonna leave early, but I mean, in economics we learned that supposedly if you're even making a fraction of a cent profit over your costs, right? Like if you're doing better than breaking even, you should probably continue that behavior, right? So, I mean, yeah, that was one thing. And then, yeah, going back to like my major, I mean, I got really good grades. I even did an internship, but then we had Trump elected, right? So he decided to have like that thing called Doge, where he like just started laying people off, and then we have like, this thing called interest rates, which are pretty high. I do admit they're not record high compared to previous times, but taking into account like modern society and like interest rates of the new millennium, right? If we're thinking about that, then rates are pretty high right now, especially if you're, someone that's young in need of money. Like if you can only borrow at 7, 8, 9% interest rate, um, it's kind of hard to like build anything with that. And then yeah, I mean in terms of housing, that messes up housing because yeah, I mean you would be surprised like if you have family connections or if you're part of fraternity, right? Maybe you have a communal bank where you can give yourself 0% interest, and if you stretch 0% interest out over 50 years, like Trump wants to with mortgages, right? Like you could buy a lot of things that you weren't able to before, and we assume price appreciation, which means that they should be better off. But the thing about this, right? The thing about this is price appreciation only works if demand goes up. And then is demand going to go up if there's falling birth rates? Because there are falling birth rates. I'm not going to get into that overly, but it does relate to this job application process where Gen Z, or essentially just whoever's applying to jobs right now, we're not really in an oversaturated market in terms of applicants. There's just not really enough jobs out there because a lot of people that would have been Gen Z, they didn't really grow up for one reason or another. Hint, hint, it's called family planning, but the people who say family planning are called Planned Parenthood, and yeah, I feel like they have a way of phrasing things that distract from what they actually do. I'm not gonna politicize about that too much, but essentially, with different priorities in life, we did have falling birth rates where we probably would need 3 or 4 kids per person that are childbearing couples, right? You would need to have like 4 kids per couple, since thing one is a lot of couples, whether they're like it or not, they might not be able to have children. So because of that, we're gonna have to offset that by having more kids by couples that can actually have kids. So that's why it's around 4 kids, because let's just assume that half of the population is single, which is honestly pretty accurate if you research it. Then only half of them are couples, and then if it's supposed to be around 2 per person, then if you have half the couples, then you have to multiply that by 2, right? Because you have half the people to work with. Because if not everyone's having kids, then you gotta have more kids with the people that actually have kids. So you need to have like 4 kids. And then if you think about like, oh, there's also like the age requirement to have kids. I'm not gonna go into like, because it's a gross conversation of like having an age requirement or a lower bound. I'm not gonna get into that because that's disgusting. But I mean, the idea is there is this age range that you can procreate in, and then once you fall out of that, I mean, you can't really reproduce, or you can't really be expected to reproduce. So you have this band of like 20, 30 years where you're kind of like meant to reproduce. Yeah, like it's 20, 30, maybe even 40-year window. But 40-year window is honestly stretching it. Yeah, no shade at women, but the biology is different, and then you guys have a finite amount of eggs, but we as guys, our eggs, right, or seed, it reproduces pretty easily. Like we don't really have to worry about that. But you girls, you guys, you girls have a limited amount of eggs that essentially you're kind of like losing them the moment you're born. But, and maybe that's a little bit misinformed. I'm not a woman, but I think the most eggs you have is when you're born, and then the rest of them you kind of like lose along the way, one way or another. But yeah, I mean, going back to like that is like our birth rates for Gen Z aren't even that high. So like you have this generation that is smaller than usual per se, compared to like boomers, and then you still have this employment crisis. So it's like, what are we doing as a society where we have this cohort that's obviously smaller than before, we have less people, but somehow there's still no work. Like, I'm disappointed. Like, we honestly should have more people on the planet, especially like young people and Gen Z. But like, if we had more of them, like, they would also not have jobs, it feels like, because we're in that situation where our cohort wasn't big enough to be vocal about these issues, but now we're dealing with these issues, and even if we were more vocal, it's kind of too late because there's not much to do about it. But I feel like if our cohort was already bigger from the get-go, then maybe we would have had more political power to have something to say about it, where we would be able to voice our concerns of, hey man, like, it's hard to get a job. Our population pool isn't really that big if we're looking at birth rates. And we're also being taxed extremely high compared to previous times where they would, oh my gosh, it's just, this video is never going to end. But I mean, the short way of just saying that is they set up these social programs that they assumed would turn out a certain way based on assumptions that they made a long time ago. And I mean, as projections go, they were wrong. So what happened because of that is they had to adjust the rates. So that did happen for federal work. So I forgot what it's called. I think it's called like FERS or something, Federal Employment Retirement Plan or something, FERP. Anyway, yeah, for federal workers, yeah, that have an example on the whiteboard earlier. So if you're, let's say after deductibles, you're making 47K, right? Or you're making your 47,000 and first dollar, right? You're making an additional dollar. So on marginal tax, you're taxed 34.95%, right? And then you're making below 50K just from, well, you're making below like 70K, right? Because after deductibles, yeah, probably like below 70K. But you're making below 70K. On your next dollar, you're getting taxed 35%. But here's the thing, as a federal employer, or as a federal employee, you have these federal buckets that you have to pay into that are for retirement. And generally, some of these are matched and then some of these are mandatory. I don't have those up exactly right now because that wasn't really my priority. But essentially, you lose like another 8% to like these retirement programs that the federal government wants you to pay into for. I think it's for, honestly, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's actually for insurance and retirement. You kind of like see the pattern here, right? It always seems to be for insurance and retirement. But yeah, I think for that, for federal, you do have to pay into. I mean, I'm pretty sure like their medical program for like the federal workers is probably really good, but like the point is they did have to raise the price on those over time. So like the percentage you have to contribute to these plans, they seemingly keep going up and up, and it seems less and less generous in terms of like the payouts of how much you can get. And it also really just benefits the people that are already entrenched. So I mentioned this topic earlier, but I mean, if you try to like get a career anywhere, you have to be part of some sort of cartel-like group. Um, that is the correct term for it. It is a cartel because they limit on who can come in. It's generally people that are already in the association, the heads of the association. They do get to decide who they let in, who they let out, how much they charge for the entrance, whether you have to renew it annually. So yeah, that's one of those things where even if you wanted to like aspire to make a change in your life by going to college, you could graduate, and depending on what your degree is, um, maybe for like engineers, it's like less of a problem, especially if their school does like a really great job at like getting them to use programs and or getting them certified in the programs. But I mean, okay, even engineering, I don't think it's bulletproof in terms of job safety. But okay, yeah, you have these programs, and then you would expect to do something with it, but then like you try to move on, and then you find out like, oh, you need this sort of certification, or you have to be part of this charter, you have to be part of this group. So I mean, yeah, it's very disappointing in terms of like what you have to do and also like the pathways to get there. Because a lot of these charters too, it's not like you just give them money and join them. No, they have like tests that you have to take, and even for the test, they have requirements of like, oh, you already had to work in the industry. So, I mean, yeah, there are these cartels that create this environment where you're open for exploitation as someone that's entry level, even if you are able to get that sort of job, which I'm trying to get. But even if you do get that entry level job, you're probably going to be underpaid or just kind of like feel exploited for the type of work you're doing. But I mean, since kind of everyone has to start off that way, you don't really have a choice if you have goals where you want to be chartered and certified. So I haven't personally committed to a specific charter, but I did have some charters in mind, like chartered financial analyst. That would be nice to have just because I could be certified. But also, I kind of think that like the financial services, they get a bad reputation, and I think it is justified because a lot of these professionals, they only seem to act in their own interest, and it doesn't really feel like they're like, even though they know better and they're advised to not act in ways that are completely self-interested, there is no real requirement of them to actively do that, you know? Like, you're not really gonna get in trouble for saying the right dumb thing, you know? Like, you could say general things, and then if someone asks you like, oh, why did you say that? Well, it's because that's what the next guy said, and then the next guy said that's what the next guy said. So you have this herd mentality in terms of like finances, where I mean, yeah, a lot of these people are overpaid, and I think a lot of them are going to be displaced by AI, which unfortunately makes it harder for me to break into that role too. Because if the current people are not really needed and they already have the experience, then the people that are supposed to be training the next generation, they're discouraged from starting anything because at least momentarily there's no need for new trainees, but they're going to find out that as time goes on, this useful labor pool that you have is going to shrink. And if the labor pool issues with unemployment persist, as noted by my 1,000 applications, they're probably gonna have to raise taxes, and they're going to raise it on the people because they just can. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like if they raise social taxes, they're not gonna cry about it. I mean, most of the people that vote, they're already benefiting from that system, and they're not actively paying into it, or they just don't really think it's their problem. So yeah, in that case, it's just like, oh, we're just gonna raise the taxes because we had to, because we have less people working, and then there's more people on welfare. I'm not actually on welfare right now, but it does feel like everyone's being pushed towards welfare, though. I mean, even though I'm not on it. I mean, in college, they already tried to get you in the food stamp system, right? So they wanted to get you into that system. I'm not sure how it works nowadays, because I know like the requirements for like food stamps, they can change a lot, or also known as SNAP. So they already tried to like get us on SNAP in college. And then, I mean, being unemployed, they really just try to get you in the benefits system. Yeah, I mean, this state I live in is Democrat, so yeah, one thing about Democrats is they do like those systems that the social support systems. Because, I mean, it's kind of like their bread and butter. I mean, it's like they get to feel good about what they're doing. And, I mean, they make money along the way, to be honest. Because a lot of these nonprofits that they set up, or organizations they set up, they do actually financially benefit from, like the legislations that come out. But, I mean, so does anyone that passes a legislation, whether it's ethical or not. I mean, there's also always like some sort of kickback. I mean, yeah, but yeah, I mean, trying to like end the video because it's almost an hour, and I'm probably gonna have to upload this too. Yeah, I mean, I applied for over 1,000 applications. It's because of AI displacing jobs. There is less entry-level hiring. There is a lot of automation with processing applications. A lot of times the workplaces do not get back to you on your application. There's applications that I turned in 4 months ago. I continue to apply to that location. They still haven't reviewed a single resume that I sent in. They continue to advertise those listings on LinkedIn, and they continue to not respond. So that is AI displacement, where not only are there fewer opportunities because of AI, AI is also further limiting the limited opportunities that are present. And this is not really limited to me. So I do have a Bachelor of Science degree, and I did go to a university of school. But I mean, it kind of like doesn't matter. Like, you could go to a no-name school, get your associate's degree, and I mean, who knows? You might have better luck in the job market, because it just really feels random. Maybe it's your name or your face or some sort of other thing. Yeah, I mean, I also see other people like struggle in my cohort of like not really able to start a career in their field, and they have to take roles that maybe are not necessarily reflective on their skills that they built up as a college student. I mean, going back to like college student, I don't think you're entitled to a job by going to college, but I think it should set you up for opportunities. And regarding my 1,000 and let me see, I think it's 1,004. My 1,004 applications. I'm not sure if that's the best number. Some of those are cross-listed, so if there is a bank listing that is listed at 10 location, but there's only one application for that. On LinkedIn, that does actually count as 10 if there's 10 listings. So that does help increase my number a lot. So I will admit that did help me get to 1,000 faster. So out of that, I probably had around, I don't know how many interviews I had. It's kind of hard to know, but probably like double digit amount, right? So double digit amount of interviews, and a lot of them, they just go to like first round and then they ghost you, or they kind of like don't necessarily explain what's going on. I mean, I'll admit sometimes the interviews just don't go as well as I thought it would. Um, I'm sorry, I've been like talking for an hour. It's gonna go on YouTube, but I mean, it's probably gonna take a really long time to upload. I'll probably try to time it so it's like under 10 minutes, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you have these jobs where, I mean, it's hard to get them, and then, you have these expectations that if you go to college or try to further your education, that there would be positions for that. But I mean, I think people are gonna realize that your job prospects depend on where you are, and there could be a mismatch in your skills and what's required near you, or what could be of use. But honestly, I don't really know how to address this situation because, I mean, I'm educated. I have a bachelor's degree. University of school. I have job experience. I was recently employed in 2026, so I'm showing employers that I'm ready to work and I'm able to work and I'm a citizen and I can work. So I did show all of that, but then there are people that are younger than me, so they're still in high school and they're trying to work, but it's so hard for them. They're not used to filling out applications quickly. There's nothing on their resume, so what are they supposed to do? Like there's really very little help for them, and I think that's gonna create a really big problem where they say that there's a lot of NEETs, right? So people that are not in education, employment, or training. And some people use the word LEET, which is changing to looking for employment, education, or training. So that describes me. I'm a LEET, so I'm looking for education, employment, or training. Right now, I mean, probably education and training. I mean, right now, probably employment and training. I did look at further education, but yeah, I mean, this video is never gonna end, but I wanted to touch on that. Like the education part is, yeah, like one thing that my experience in university is you learn a lot of these classes because you're forced to, because it's part of the curriculum, and you can't really change it a lot of the time, so you can't create your own major. I understand that, but generally, if you want to like go with the flow of like what's already out there and then just trying to like work with what the university offers, you have to take a lot of classes that you don't necessarily like. So I mentioned this earlier, they try to push a lot of econ students into coding, and I just don't like. I understand like they want us to collect data, but I just don't really see why it's so. I mean, I think it just goes into this situation where they want to hire people that do everything, but they don't want to invest in developing everything. So I think if I'm economics major, if I was just a pure economics major, master of arts, let's even say that, because I know people that are masters of arts in economics, right? You don't really expect them to be an expert in math. You don't really expect them to be an expert in coding. You expect them to be an expert in economics. So it's like, why are you really like fixated on the other two things, like especially the coding? Because it's so coding heavy that sometimes they just want someone to do all the coding for them. They happen to be working in an economic field, or they were using economic data, but essentially in that field for the entry level stuff, a lot of that revolves around, okay, this is the field you want to work in, but we're just going to have you do this task with coding because that's what we need. That's what our business needs are. So we need you to do this coding for this economic data we have. And that was not my plan for what I want to do with my degree. I admit I may have been a little like misinformed in terms of like the job opportunities, but I credit that to AI because I I couldn't really have known better because I was really young, and I also didn't really foresee what was going to happen and how much the working situation was going to deteriorate. But I mentioned this to my family members: is I really should have seen this coming. First off, for like I'm really interested in like the financial part, but I don't know. I don't know how long it will take me to for me to break into that field, and I'm not sure of like the path that's gonna take me there. But okay, just going back to like the financial field, like you have the thing of like mobile banking, right? That fucked over the industry. I mean, it's over an hour. I probably say fuck now, right? It's over an hour. Yeah, no demonetization, and then if we are demonetized, we're just ball harder next time, do it differently. Um, yeah, but I kind of forgot what I was saying, but yeah, sorry, content drought. It's because I've been talking for a long time. Yeah, sorry for the dead space. I would pause the video, but I'm like not really built like that. But yeah, I mean, you would just expect things to be different. Oh yeah, I mean, like regarding AI, like I had no way of like really knowing that. Like, I could have assumed like, okay, with mobile banking, like people are going to be pushed aside, but I mean, deep down, I was like, okay, there's still boomers that like want to come into like the tellers window and talk to people, right? So I'm like still trying to get like part-time teller jobs, but those are like so limited. And even when I go into banks, they have like one guy working there, and I'm not gonna politicize about like race and things like that, but even like the hiring processes, like when they hire that one person, they're gonna pick someone that's going to align with business needs. I don't know how else to phrase that kindly. And then, yeah, I mean, they just need one guy, and then they, in their own head, they make this little calculation, whether it's the AI or the hiring manager, they make this little calculation of, oh, is this the person that I want to pick? And sometimes you are that person, but I mean, for me, it's been pretty unfortunate in terms of that. Yeah, honestly, I really should have known better because, I mean, the main reason I didn't know better is because I didn't force the AI. And then the other thing is I was kind of confused on how the commissions work. So in the financial industry, you get a lot of commission, and my issue with the commission system is, as I said earlier, you're supposed to be like this person that's chartered. You're supposed to be a financial expert. It's hard to justify that when you're taking like a 1% fee from someone, and then you're not really informing them that you could get a 0.04% fee elsewhere, which is 1/20th, right? So that's the thing about active and passive management in terms of finances, is that active management is very expensive, and I think it is going out of style. So you're just gonna go over more passive. It's gonna go over more to the passive industry. So that was one thing that really screwed me over in my field, is like finance. It's needing less and less people. Right now, they're trying to push the agentic AI on. I think on Robinhood, you can already use AI to trade for you, which is a terrible idea, by the way. I actually do look into stuff like stocks like that, but I can tell you is like when even when I take this data, right? A lot of time they give you incorrect information. So if you use that to make financial decisions, you're gonna fuck up your finances. You're gonna go broke. You're gonna go broke, and someone else is gonna make money off of the fact that you're going broke, and somehow they're not gonna be responsible for you going broke. I don't know how. It seems like they would be responsible if it's on their platform with their AI, but somehow they're gonna weasel out of it, and it's gonna be your fault. Uh, but yeah, I mean that's the plan for the financial future. Is you just do everything on your phone, and then even on your phone, you probably use an AI to help you out. So yeah, I mean, it really deteriorated in terms of like jobs, like even talking to people. That's been outsourced to English-speaking foreign countries where they have a lower minimum wage. So yeah, it's hard to get jobs like that. So it's just really hard for young people to get started. Um, I mean, I think old people, they probably have the same issue, especially if they're not skilled. But I mean, the thing about this with old people is like you guys had more of an opportunity and more time to try. and then when young people when they have the same issues, they had less time, less resources, less everything. So it feels like the younger you are, like the worse you really have it off. And yeah, that's why I think like this job market, um, something needs to change because we're going towards a society where we have fewer and fewer people working, and then we also have a birth rate that's not very conductive to having stable funding for our social services. And then because of this, we have these bond rates going up. And what I think about that, um, I don't know. I feel like the bond market is a very confusing thing at times. But one thing I know, at least from my experience or just like my perspective, is I just don't really see how the governments can afford to raise rates when we're already doing so much deficit spending and then when people are already so broke. I mean, at this point, I feel like they'd just rather let inflation go out of control because, I mean, if you raise rates, the job market is going to suffer even more. But if you lower rates, I don't think they should lower rates either, but suppose that they lowered rates, maybe that would get people to invest into their workforce, or maybe it would be cheaper for them to conduct business because they don't realize like a lot of these service industries like retail, um, yeah, like let's go with like retail clothes, right? So they're generally not that profitable in terms of like margin because it's easily replicable. There's really nothing you can do to your clothes that make it distinct in terms of being irreplicable. You know, if someone really wants to make the same thing that you made for clothes, they very much can. The only high margin ones are like luxury goods, and even those are not very stable or reliable in terms of getting a high margin out of that. But yeah, going back to things like that, like the lower margin businesses, like small scale retail for clothes and food. I mean, if you have like really high interest rates, like they're gonna struggle to pay bills, and then they're not gonna want to hire more people. Like that's another thing of like these Western state that I'm in. Like there's a lot of empty storefronts depending on where you go because it's just like not profitable to conduct business here. So yeah, I mean that's my video. If you guys have any thoughts, put it in the comment section, and make sure you subscribe, and then I'll try to upload more videos. I already applied to 1,000 jobs. I've already job maxed, so I'm gonna try to put more videos on YouTube to build up that platform, have a place to talk to people, make some content that I would like to see on YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube content. A lot of the stuff on YouTube is, I don't know, it just seems like, I just look at it, I'm like, oh, honestly, I could probably make something better. Regarding videos, they're probably going to be unedited. I'm sorry, I just don't want to edit them. I tried it before. I don't think it's just my thing, and I don't really want to like hire someone, at least at this time, to like help me edit videos. I'm just trying to do it for fun. Maybe I'll have like some gameplay videos, but I mean I feel like it's like a little oversaturated, and I'm also like trying to like practice like speaking and being on camera a little bit. So I feel like it's like forcing me to be more sociable if I have my camera on versus if I like put on some Call of Duty Black Ops gameplay and then I do a voiceover. Honestly, the gameplay would be easier because I already like played the game. I just don't have like an Elgato, right? So if I had an Elgato, I would probably be more open to like recording gameplay and then just doing a voiceover. Because the thing about a voiceover is it's a lot easier. So even though this video is like over an hour long, I have like no intention of reshooting it, and I did it in one take. So it's like one of those things where if you do a voiceover, like you could really do it in as many takes as you want. You could cut whenever, but I'd rather do unedited videos talking about stuff that I think is important, and then hopefully other people find my perspective important. If you guys have any like video ideas, you could put them in the comments. I'll try to address them. I don't promise that I will address all of them, and if I'm comfortable with covering that topic, I'll probably not cover it. Also, try to avoid asking things that are overly personal or trying to like get involved in my personal life, or maybe even trying to like become some sort of parasocial friend. I'm not really into that. Like, I don't really want any like parasocial relationships. So I mean, if you think I'm cool, that's cool. But if you like want to like hang out with me in person a lot, and like I don't really know you, and like you live across the globe, and you're like in a different country, and like you want to hang out with me at a abandoned clown motel at 2 a.m. in Nevada, I will probably decline. Just because. I mean, you should probably keep in mind that there would be reasons as to why I would be uncomfortable with doing something like that. So, I mean, yeah, yeah. Here, the SAC Army, or the SAC Nation. I'm trying to figure out what we're gonna call the SAC Owner Club. Maybe the SAC Owner Club. Maybe if I have like a premium subscription, we call it the SAC Owner Club. But yeah, fellow SACs. I think that's it for the first video. It's almost an hour and 10 minutes. I hope you enjoy it, and then feel free to let me know what you thought of this video. Peace.